if I'm going to have conflict with somebody, the first step to that conflict is becoming vulnerable with them. Admitting my own faults. When I admit my own faults, I give them something to trust with. I'm entrusting with them my weakness. This is where I failed. Let me reveal to you where I failed, so if you wanted to, you could use it as ammo against me, but don't, because if you do, it'll ruin our relationship. But I'm going to give you that trust anyway. This day, for this word, and we just pray for revelation in Jesus' name, amen. All right, cool. So we'll be talking about crybabies, part 5. This could be part 5, conflict, how we deal with awkward conflict. To recap, part 1, we're talking about complaining. There's a proper time to complain. When you're a baby, you can complain because you don't know any better, and that's the only way you can get things done. As you mature, though, you learn to not seek that from people. You end up learning how to what we call suck it up, buttercup, right? We learn to get back up and move forward, right? We learn that the end of the world is not here, you know. Also, part 2, we talked about suffering, that even when you start doing the right thing, you're still going to suffer, because anything that's of great value is going to cost you something, all right? So we can't complain about that suffering. Otherwise, it'll prevent us from receiving the promise that we're going for. Okay, we have to just push through. We have to, anything that's of great value to us is going to cost us something. Make sense? Part 3, we talked about honoring poor leadership. You know, oftentimes when we're complaining about those that are above us because we don't think that they care about us, and so we actually ask the question, what if, like, you really do have a leader that doesn't care, and they're just kind of a bad leader? What are you going to do? And we talked about giving your gifts before kings. When you give your gift before king, it makes way for you and allows you to approach them and have a meaningful connection with them. And honestly, you end up leading from behind. Your leadership, you're influencing them to become a better leader, okay? And then part 4, we talked about self-control. The big quote from that one was, we complain about those we feel have control over us. So it's not just your leaders. It can be your wife. It can be your friends, things of that nature. And so the key to not complaining is to have self-control. When we have self-control, we don't blame anybody else for our life. Make sense? We don't blame anybody else for our life. We know that we can do something different about it, okay? And so part 5, we're going to be talking about dealing with conflict, which I thought we were going to talk about last time, but we never did. So this is going to be conflict. We just talked about self-control. And honestly, it's because self-control is key to conflict. Self-control is the key to success in conflict. People think that lack of conflict means that there's peace. That's not true. Just look at the Cold War. There wasn't no bombs or bullets, but there was not peace. How many times do you have a relationship in your life and it's a Cold War? No one wants to blow up. Or you don't want the other person to blow up. So we just keep it to ourselves. In our hearts, we grumble and complain. But we don't actually deal with it.
Was it one-liner you said? People think that peace is the lack of
conflict,
but you can't have peace without conflict.
You cannot have peace without conflict.
Or something you said.
Because somebody has something to say, and if they're holding on to it for too long, eventually it's going to blow up. Someone's not being honest. I've heard people say, well, we've been married for 5 years and we've never had a fight. Well, someone's lying. So in 5 years, when you guys finally blow up and y'all get a divorce, I'll understand why. Because you're not actually having conflict. Make sense? But self-control is the key to having healthy conflict. Self-control is the key to having conflict, having healthy conflict. Why? Because when you have self-control, you know that it's no one else's fault but your own. What do you mean, Zach? Sure, other people are doing stuff. No, whenever you have self-control, you also know the power of taking responsibility. This is what we kind of talked about in the previous one. When you take responsibility for your life, instead of forfeiting responsibility for your life to someone else and grumbling and complaining about them because you think they're the reason why all your life is horrible, when you take responsibility, then guess what happens? You can take inventory of your life and you can say, hey, this is where I went wrong. Or, hey, I might have messed up when I did this. And that's the key. Self-control always leads to taking responsibility. Self-control always leads to taking responsibility. When you take responsibility, it also creates discipline in your life, which is self-control. They feed each other. When you have discipline in your life, you have freedom in your life. Okay? So again, that's kind of referring back to the previous teaching, right? If we don't have discipline, if we don't have self-control, then we're letting someone else control us. And we're very double-minded, swayed back and forth by the wind. We have no control. Okay? If you have self-control, then that means you take responsibility. You're like, you know what? No one else is in control of me. I am in control of me. So this is what I need to fix in me. When you can do that, then you can go talk to someone, and the first thing out of your mouth is, you know, I probably should have said this to you, or hey, you know what? I'm sorry, I did this, but we start to take responsibility before we hold that other person accountable. If you can take responsibility for your own actions before you try to hold someone else accountable to their actions, first of all, you're really going to go a long way. Okay, and Jesus actually says, he says, if you have a plank in your eye, right, a log in your eye, and you try to get the speck out of your brother's eye, it's not going to work, right? You're like, how you? Please, man, if you got a stick hanging out of your eyeball and I got a speck in mine, please don't come near me. You're just going to poke my other eye out.
Yeah, right.
Truth is, we got to have that self-control. So when we have that self-control, we take responsibility. Make sense? And that leads to healthy conflict. And it goes back to the third teaching of honoring your leadership. The same way that you would let your gift go before you to make room before a king, you do the same thing with your spouse. You do the same thing with your friends. If you want them to look at this. You have to make conversation a safe place. You have to make conversation a safe place. If every time you go talk to that person, you're yelling and screaming, it's not a safe place. Right. Make sense? So whenever you take responsibility at the beginning of the conversation, what you've just done is you've surrendered the fight. Mm-hmm. There's it's not me against you. It's saying, hey, let's come to terms. Let's come to agreement. I'll show my belly if you show me your belly. See what I'm saying? We're going to yield to one another. So powerful. We got to yield to one another. So, this is why the Bible says, I think in Matthew chapter 18, let's go there. Matthew chapter 18, verse 15. If another believer sins against you, so powerful, go privately and point out the offense. Okay, but if you come up here, oh, this is so powerful. Okay, anyway. Jesus also says, point it out privately, right? Point out the offense. If the other person listens and confesses it, you have won that person back. But if you're unsuccessful, take one or two others with you and go back again. So what's the process here? Can I look at this real quick? This is talking about judging one another. He's teaching us how to do it, right? So we'll go to Matthew chapter 7. And then we're going to go to Matthew 18. Okay. It says, do not judge others, and you will not be judged. What? Look at this. Now it's saying over Matthew 18, if your brother sins, go point out his offense. Okay, Jesus, make up your mind. Don't judge or do judge. Or maybe the devil just likes to twist up Scripture. Maybe the truth is we are supposed to judge, but maybe we're doing it wrong. Watch this. It says, do not judge others, and you will not be judged. He's stating a fact. If you don't judge other people, I ain't going to judge you. We always say that has to do with God, and it is having to do with God. You got to look at the other one, but I think it's also talking about simply dealing with relationships. If you don't ever criticize other people, you're not going to reap what you sow. Make sense? Do not judge others, and you will not be judged. For you will be treated as you treat others. The standard you use in judging is the standard by which you will be judged. And why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own? How can you think of saying to your friend, let me help you get rid of that speck in your eye when you can't see past the log in your own eye? Hypocrite! First get rid of the log in your own eye, then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. Don't waste what is holy on people who are unholy. Don't throw your pearls to pigs. They will trample the pearls, then turn and attack you.
What does exactly that mean?
I was talking about, I think it's in this. It's actually in the same context as judging. Did you know that if I can come to you and you're humble, and I judge you for your sin, you'll repent and live? Don't waste what is holy on people who are unholy. If you can't receive what I have to say to you, why would I say it to you? What we're looking for is humility. The key to life is humility. So if I come to you and I'm trying to tell you something, but you're so offended about my log, you'll never receive from me. Now that doesn't seem to line up with what this passage is saying. It's like, no, aren't you supposed to take out the log out of your own eye, Zach? Yeah, but what if I didn't? What if I didn't take the log out of my eye? Let's just say I did not take the log out of my eye, but you were a humble person, and I came and started telling you, you did this, you did that, right? But you were humble, what would happen? You would repent. I'm going to tell you right now, if somebody came to me one time and started getting on my case, I'm thinking to myself, man, first of all, you have no clue who you're talking to or what you're talking about, and that was my first thought. I got a little defensive at first in my heart. But my training is be humble. So I didn't say a word. I just listened. And I immediately just said to myself, Zach, spit out the sticks, keep the hay. You know what I mean? Let's get rid of the stuff that's not good, and let's listen for what I need to hear. Okay? Because if you're a humble person, it won't matter who says it to you, and it won't matter how they say it to you. If you're listening to the Holy Spirit will say, this right here. Fix that, Zach. Don't worry about all this other fluff. Just see that right there, Zach? I remember getting a 3-page email one time. I got kicked out of ministry. It's actually on the mission trip that Matt went with me on. I got kicked out of the Philippines, a 3-page email, all this slander about my name. And all these things that supposedly I'd done. 3-page email. And I read that email, and I'm racking my brain. I'm like, Lord, what did I do wrong? And I didn't do anything wrong. Nothing on that paper was even valid. It was all misunderstandings. For instance, one time they were like, Zach got mad when we turned off his microphone when he was playing the trombone. Well, first of all, I didn't even know you turned off the microphone until I got this email. Second, I know when something's wrong with the sound system because I'm an all-state trombone player and I know my music. Third, and foremost, I actually told them if they didn't want me to play, I wouldn't get my feelings hurt. Just tell me, because I didn't come here to play the trombone. I came here to preach the gospel and to be a servant. But they wanted to oblige me instead of tell me, no, Zach, this doesn't really fit what we're looking for. They didn't have the courage to tell me that, even though I fully told them, you know what I mean? Hey, you don't have to let me play. You know what I mean? But anyway, they didn't still let me play. So that's one of the examples. So I was, anyway, I asked the Lord about it. Why? like, if none of these things are true that they said about me, why am I so hurt? Why am I? And the Lord told me, he said, Zach, it's because you care too much about what people think. You fear men. So there's a 3-page email of falsehoods, but because I humbled myself and asked God, he revealed to me a poison in my heart. Isn't that crazy? In fact, what I discovered about myself had nothing to do with those 3 pages of... Nothing in the 3 pages was... So I asked God, what did I do right? You didn't do anything wrong on this email, Zach, but the devil knows that you're full of pride and you care what people think. Right. So he attacked you using slander, knowing that it would defeat you for a year. Isn't that crazy? So even though those things weren't true that they said, there was still something wrong in my heart. So if we can always hear the truth. This is what, I love the story of Jonah. Jonah hated those people. I've said this so many times, but I think it's such a good example. Jonah hated the people he preached to. Hated them. Only told them bad news. Didn't tell them any good news. And 200,000 people repented. Who knows? Maybe God will relent. And they ripped their clothes and fasted for 40 days. And at the end of the 40 days, Jonah gets up on the mountain, pops some popcorn, leans back, drinks a soda, right? He's ready to see fire fall down from heaven, and nothing happens. And he's like, I knew you were like this, God. So it's funny because the king's like, who knows? Jonah knew. Jonah conveniently held back the good news. He said, in 40 days, you're going to die. Didn't tell them, hey, if you repent, God will save you. Yeah. Didn't say that. In 40 days, you're all going to die. And he walked out of the city. Who knows? Maybe God. Who knows? That guy right there walking off, he knows. He knows. And he got mad at God. I knew you would forgive them. Isn't that crazy? I knew you would. So here's my point. Do not judge others, and you will not be judged, for you will be treated as you treat others. The standard you use in judging is the standard by which you will be judged. And why worry about the speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own eye? He's not warning, he's not telling you, don't... Obviously, Jonah and his horrible profiting saved an entire nation, or an entire city, right? So Nineveh was saved, even though Jonah walked in there with a giant log in his eye. You see what I'm saying? So whose benefit is Jesus telling this to? Is it to the benefit of the guy with the speck? Why should you get the log out of your own eye? Is it for the guy who has a speck? No. It's because you will be judged by God for going and telling somebody else about a speck when you still got a log. You shouldn't be worried about what the... if I love people, truly love people, and want to give them the truth, I should never worry about what they think. Okay? I should worry about what God thinks. So when we go and try to take a speck out of our brother's eye, but we have a log in our eye, and we're not willing to say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I should... And I don't start actually dealing with my own sin. I should have done this. I should... You know what I mean? If we don't start taking responsibility for our own selves, then God's going to hold us responsible for that. Not those people. God's not telling me to get the speck out. God's not telling me to get the log out of my own eye for the guy who has a speck. It's not for his salvation that God's telling me to take the. It's for my own salvation. God's telling me to get the log out of my eye. Make sense? Because if the guy with the speck's humble, I can go in there with my log and he'll repent. And I'll be lost. Let me say it again. If the guy who has a speck is humble, and I go in there with my log, and I pass judgment on him, and he repents, he will be saved, but I will not. This is the reason why I don't know if Jonah made it. Because Jonah never loved his enemies. The Bible says, if you do not forgive your brother from your heart, look at this. Yep. Matthew 18. So we're back over here. So now let's talk about it. So So once you get the log out of your own eye for your own salvation's sake, now what do we do? If another brother sins against you, go privately and point out the offense. If the other person listens and confesses it, you have won that person back. But if you are unsuccessful, take 1 or 2 others with you and go back with them. So there's a 3-step process here. There's a 4-step process here. Number 1, take the log out.
Yep.
Step 1. Step 2, go privately.
One-on-one.
Nobody get it.
That's huge.
One-on-one. Don't complain about them behind their back.
Right.
This is where it's tying back into grumbling and complaining, crybabies, right? No, what happens is we get bitter and resentful, and we want to start talking. Instead of talking to that person that we have an offense with, we talk to everyone else about it. You want to know why we talk to everyone else about it? Because we're cowards.
That's a good. It's true.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yep.
So why do we going to the other people? We need somebody to have our back. You see what I'm saying? We're afraid to confront, so we go talk to other people who can be like cheerleaders in our life that are really horrible because they're like, yeah, he shouldn't do that. Blah, blah, blah. Right? And so this is how divorces happen.
That's what whenever Aaron and dude, God said because you weren't afraid to speak against Moses, her skin turned leprous.
Yeah, so Miriam's skin turned leprous. Aaron didn't get punished, but I'm sure he was the guy who was like, yeah!
Why didn't he? I was going to ask you that. That's where I read it.
Or maybe it's the other way. Maybe Aaron was complaining and Miriam said, yeah! And she got struck with leprosy for not going in defending. I don't know. You got to read it. I've had married couples that I've counseled where the man... I'm not saying that it doesn't happen both ways, okay? But in this situation, the man was, whatever, the woman would go talk to her friends and complain about him, and the friends would always have her back. Yeah, you shouldn't do that. That is the worst friend.
Yeah.
If you go talk to somebody, if you are guilty of this, and you go talk to somebody else about someone you have a problem with, and that person doesn't push you back and say, hey, dude, what did you do wrong? If they don't start challenging you and saying, hey, man, where did you go wrong? Or, hey, maybe you should see it from their point of view. If you don't have someone, if you go to somebody and they don't start trying to be a mediator between you and that other person, they're a bad friend. And they're desperate for your attention. And they want to be liked by you. And they're a coward too, and they won't confront you about it. We have to be a mediator. When someone comes and complains to me about somebody else, you can't just sit there and listen to them writhe in their filth. If you understood that their complaining was going to kill them, you would help them. And you'd say something. Hey, man, that's not good. You know, you're going on, you got some bitterness in your heart. Hey, man, why are you so bitter? Hey, man, why are you so upset? What's the resentment? What are you not forgiving people for? What is it you're holding against someone else? What happened in the past that made you stop trusting your leadership?
Uh-oh, there it is. That's it.
What's really happening in your heart? If we love people and someone comes to complain to us about someone else, our job should always be to bring peace to the relationship. Hey, man, well, when are you going to go talk to that guy about that thing? Well, if you have a problem, you should go talk to him. If you're not quoting this verse, if another brother sins against you, go privately. Hey, you know when you come talk to me and complain to me about so-and-so, you're committing a sin? Now, I know sometimes you just don't know what to say. So let me help you. Instead of coming complaining to me, let me teach you how to have this conflict. You see what I'm saying? So good friends will help their friend, help the one who's complaining, help them see how to overcome the issue. Okay? Because complaining is a fruit, okay, of what's happening in our hearts. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So step 3, after going privately, step 2. Step 2 is go privately. Step 3 is take 2 or 3 others with you and go back. Why? Because if you went to talk to that person didn't want to hear you. It could be one of two things. It could be that person truly does have a hard heart, or it could be that you don't know what the heck you're doing. And when you went in there, you started judging and didn't take the log out of your eye, and then I couldn't hear what you had to say because they're too distracted by your log.
Right.
Okay? So you take 2 or 3 people with you for a reason, so they can mediate between you. Not so they can take your side.
Yeah.
In fact, it's wiser to take someone with you who doesn't agree with you.
Right.
That's why it says 2 or 3 witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
So that 2 people who can try to think soundly. It's hard to find someone who can think soundly.
Right. Yeah.
People are so emotionally driven. They start hearing your side and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I was so blessed. I was so blessed as a kid. I'd come home and I'd talk about my bullies at school who would pick on me and make fun of me. I picked on all my life. Okay? So I'd come home and I'd tell my mom and dad about my bullies. I mean, I was so blessed to have a mother who would tell me, well, why do you think he does that to you? Why do you think he calls you names, Zach? I don't know. He's just mean to me. No.
He's unhappy with his life.
Why do you think he does that, Zach? I don't know. Well, Zach, you know, you're very fortunate to have a mother and father that love you and that listen to you, but what if that boy's getting beat when he goes home every day? What if his daddy drinks and yells and cusses at him all the time? What if his mother's always down his throat? What if he's just confused and he doesn't know? And now he's coming home and he's taking that on everybody else. He's coming to school and taking it on everybody else. And my mind was just open. And every time I came home, my mother and my father would do that to me. And I said, I had a lot of people to complain about. My mother and father always pushed me back. And you know what it did? It broke my heart. It caused me to have my heart broken for those who I didn't like, those who hated me. It started making me wonder, man, why do they think the way they think? It also gave me a lot of patience for people. So when I start ministering and someone starts blowing up in my face, I don't get offended. Because I know they're just confused. Because if they knew what they were doing, they wouldn't talk to me like that. If they knew who they were, they wouldn't talk to me like that either. If they knew who I was, they wouldn't talk to me. Have you heard that phrase? Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
What they're trying to do is demand that you respect them. But truly, if they knew who you were, they wouldn't talk to you like that. And they don't know who you are because they don't know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Powerful stuff. They don't know how to talk to you. Todd White says it's groaning. The whole earth is groaning for the revealing of the sons of God. So when someone is yelling and cussing and screaming at you, you know what they're doing? They're groaning. They want something, they want life to come out. And when you don't give it to them, guess what? They didn't get to find a son. But they're looking for one. People wouldn't talk like that to you if they knew who they were. If they knew who they were, then they would also know who you were.
Right.
Because we're looking for God. Mm-hmm. And the Bible says, how can you say you love God and not love your brother? He says, how can you love God whom you cannot see, but you do not love your brother whom you can see? It's not possible. So that everything you say may be confirmed by 2 or 3 witnesses. If the person still refuses to listen, take your case to the church. So now, this is going to be public. To the church. Okay? Then if he or she won't accept the church's decision, treat that person as a pagan or a corrupt tax collector. So now you ostracize them. You have nothing to do with them. Now that sounds kind of pretty harsh, but that's what it says in the Bible. So, and Jesus said it too, so it's a little bit. It says, I tell you the truth, whatever you forbid on earth will be forbidden in heaven. Whatever you permit on earth will be permitted in heaven. I also tell you this, if 2 or 3 of you agree on earth concerning anything you ask, my Father in heaven will do it for you. For where there are 2 or 3 gathered as my followers, I am there among them. I'm going to go and read this whole little story here. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is key. You have to be willing to really forgive. Why don't we want to have conflict? The reason we don't want to have conflict is we secretly don't believe it's going to help. We don't think that what we say is going to matter to that person. We don't believe that they will change. We don't believe that they'll change, or we question their character. Make sense? If we believe that person had our best interest in mind, we would go talk to them. Make sense? If we don't believe they care, then we don't want to talk to them. We just want to talk about them. Powerful stuff. What if you get the feeling that someone has a problem with you? What if you have a feeling that maybe this person has a problem with you? We're not talking about like when your girlfriend texts you and you don't text back and then she's like, "Are you mad at me?" No.
Yeah. What do you mean? What? Yeah.
That's usually just deep insecurity. Okay.
Like
I'm not talking about an insecure way where you're like concerned that they don't like you. We're talking about when you have a telltale and you're like, okay, that person does have an issue. How can you tell?
When they look at you, or
Sometimes they're mean, sometimes they're short. What's up?
ask 'em,
You have to ask them, yeah. Is everything okay?
Are you mad at me?
Yeah.
You can ask that question.
No.
Big old eyes.
That's why we have one
Are
on
you
one.
mad at me?
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, sometimes you can't tell if you don't ask. Hey, man, is there any are you frustrated with me about anything? Is there anything I can do to help you?
Right.
You know, like for real, like honest. Okay?
And that's
So
okay.
here's the
You have to
problem.
go to them one-on-one. Right.
Here's the problem with waiting too long. Is that you start to formulate your own conclusions already. And you start believing the worst instead of believing in the best. You can't wait too long. The Bible actually literally says, do not let the sun go down on your anger. So if you wait one day, you wait too long. Here's the reason why. Conflict can look like a raging fire or burning coals. They're still both hot. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. So we have a raging fire, right? Or we have burning coals. Just because you don't have the flames up doesn't mean it's not hot. And it doesn't mean that it ain't ready to set fire either. And don't be deceived, because coals are hotter than flames. They're just buried, waiting to be unearthed, and waiting to light some dry wood on fire. Ask yourself, am I wet wood?
Are you wet wood?
Am I wet wood? Am I dry wood? Or am I burning coals? If you throw the wet wood into burning coals, see, that's why I can deal with conflict so well. Because I try to keep my wood wet. So then I go hop in there in that burn barrel with them hot burning coals. Hey man, what's up with you? Well, I was just you're like,
Flames come out.
wet wood. You can't get me on fire, baby. Be wet wood. If you're dry wood and you go try to help somebody with burning coals, he's gonna let you on fire. You got to go in there with wet wood.
Yeah.
Also, when you go into a fight and you're going into conflict, are you bringing water or gasoline? Leaders are always carrying. John C. Maxwell says leaders are always carrying 2 buckets with them: a bucket of gasoline or a bucket of water, and they're always showing up to a fire. Leaders always have to put fires out, or if you don't know how to do it, you'll make it bigger. When it comes to conflict, it's always about honesty. When you're talking to that person in life, ask yourself, is he being totally honest with me? I'm not talking about being paranoid where you think everyone's lying. I'm talking about vulnerability. If the guy you're talking to is not revealing any sort of weakness within himself, then he's not being honest. Naked. The key to strong relationships is nakedness. When you get married, you get naked, right? That's the foundation, actually, to your marriage is nakedness. This is the key to healthy conflict and meaningful relationships. The key to meaningful relationships is nakedness. You know, Mikey, you said earlier, well, it takes a long time for me to really let it out, right?
Yeah.
Well, I have to ask yourself, what is covering your nakedness? In psychology, they call it walls.
Oh.
I'll put my walls up.
Mm-hmm.
Walls, doubt and insecurity.
I'm not going to let anybody... Well, yeah, because there's walls that are covering up your doubt,
Right.
your insecurity. Okay, so Mikey, I'm calling you out. I'm not trying to call you out because obviously, well, I'm serious. I don't want to I'm not trying to make you less willing to be vulnerable by doing this. Okay, but I think that you took a risk when you said it takes me a while to open up. You were taking a risk by saying that. That was almost you. You actually took down the wall a little bit and said, "Everybody hear that?" You see what I'm saying? Make sense?
Takes me a while to open up.
So now you have to ask yourself, what are our fig leaves? The Bible says whenever Adam and Eve sinned and they were ashamed, right?
Naked and ashamed. Yeah.
Listen, look at this. They were naked and ashamed because of their doubt and their insecurities. So they sewed fig leaves and covered them, but it wasn't good enough. Ask yourself, what are my walls? What are my fig leaves? What do I hide behind?
Jokesters?
Do I?
If I joke a lot?
If I joke a lot.
Yeah.
I know I did that. But really, why do we do that? Can we get real?
Why?
Can we get real for a minute?
Why do we do it?
Why do you, Mikey, why do you laugh?
I don't know.
That's funny.
No, I laugh in proper moments too. You know, I mean, I just laugh.
Yes.
It's defense mechanism, I guess.
Boom. Look at that. So we laugh, and oftentimes we laugh and tell jokes and cut up, but it's really what it is a defense mechanism, and it keeps people from coming in. Would you agree?
Yep.
Yep. So, what's
Why
your
do
name?
we do that? Like, why do I do that? Why do we do that? Why do we not want people to be our friend or?
Well,
Be
okay.
hurt by people?
Okay, so everybody does this, okay? Shane does it whenever he starts. Shane is an encourager, but he doesn't do an encouraging for your sake. It's for his sake. Okay? So if something gets awkward, he'll say, well, and he does that because he doesn't want to have an offense.
Yeah.
So he'll be encouraging almost to put that thing back up. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to have that conflict yet. So he'll be encouraging. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So everybody does it on some level. We have to be aware of what we're doing and why we do it so that when it happens and we're like, you know what? Am I preventing something that needs to happen right now? Am I preventing a vulnerability that must happen if I want to go deeper today? Powerful. And what I've learned about myself is I'm like you, Mikey. I laugh about all kinds of stuff, and I laugh when it's awkward. Awkward laughing, right? That's why I'll be preaching about, and God killed them all, and I'll go,
Oops.
I'm like, well, it's not that funny. Right?
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not laughing over.
But it's the truth, right? So I know for a fact for myself, I've done the same thing. Like I used to tell a joke when I was a kid. I'd tell jokes when I was a kid because I was trying to get people to think I was funny. And when nobody laughed, I would laugh. And then they'd make fun of me for laughing at my own jokes. But I couldn't stop it. It was so awkward for me. I would laugh at my own joke. And then, like I said, they'd start making fun of me because I laughed at my own jokes. But that was the only way I could. That's the only way I knew how to deal with it. I didn't want to be a mean person. I didn't want to be a jerk, right? Because so then there's other people that do the opposite. Whenever they're having a conflict, they become like a bulldozer, So I was dealing with this one. I'm not going to name names, but I was dealing with this one marriage couple, and I started noticing about 3 meetings in that she would get real aggressive. And she'd be kind of rude and pushy. And so I think by the 3rd time we met, I said, if you really want to let him in, you can't be a ramrod. He can't just be, because you don't want to deal with the conflict. All of a sudden now you're putting up all your armor and you're just going to run into him and hope he gets out of your way. I said, but if he loves you, he's not going to do that. He might get run over a couple times. But the truth is, if he loves you, he's going to point it out. And so fortunately, because we had that marriage counseling, I was able to say that in front of him and her. And so now he knew, oh, that's a telltale. She doesn't want to deal with conflict. So she's becoming aggressive in her ramrod, and that's actually ruining our intimacy. So being a ramrod can ruin. If being a ramrod can, it's easier to see that, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, he's being a ramrod. That's ruining our intimacy. Mm-hmm. It's harder if somebody's laughing to say, well, that's actually ruining our intimacy, right? And the reason why, so you might actually find, Mikey, I know this. I'm not trying to pick on you, just trying to help you. Actually, you might find that the reason why it takes you so long to connect is because people think everything's fine. Because you're putting off an air of, hey, I'm all fun and games and everything's fine. And then they can't actually see that there's a problem. And so they don't know there's a problem. So they don't dig deeper. And then when they do start digging deeper, then the laughing starts again. And then they're like, well, and so it's, you can't help it.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Yeah.
But people who are wise can see it and say, hey man, for real, and set a new tone in the room, right? And then when you set the new tone, then we can say, let's get down to the bottom of this, because I love you and I care about you. And I know that you're going to probably laugh whenever things get awkward, but I love you. And so I want to know you. I want to know you. And to be honest with you, I did the same thing to Kurt. When Kurt first moved in this program, he told jokes, laughed, cut up all the time. He told me his whole story. He actually told me his entire testimony. But he reminded me today. He says, yeah, this is what you said to me. I said, here's what I told him. I said, I know all this other stuff about you. I know all your jokes. I know all your past. But I actually don't know who you are. Because you're hiding behind all the jokes. So, we have to ask ourselves, why do we do that? And the truth is, we're nervous. We're nervous to really let loose. We're nervous to really let someone in. Because what if they hurt me? Because everybody else in my life just hurt me. They've always taken advantage of me.
And that what causes that.
Yeah.
That's what causes it to draw back.
Yeah. And also, laughter is a good medicine.
It is.
Yeah.
Beats crying.
Yeah. It's true.
I've done a lot of that too. So.
But you know what? When I was in high school, I bawled my eyes out one time. And I told the Lord, I said, nobody knows me except for you.
The Lord? You told the Lord that?
I told God that. It was a very humbling, sad, miserable, but also joyful experience. Because it was a revelation that nobody actually knew who I was. That was sad. A part of me died. And then I realized, you know what? The only one I need to know me is God. And if I realize that He's who I need, then I can be what God has called me to be and I can seek to understand other people because I get my strength from God. Make sense? But it sure would have helped if somebody was willing to listen. One time I told my whole life story to somebody. This one girl, I told my whole life story to her, man. It took 2 hours. She never talked to me again.
I'm sorry for laughing.
Yeah, it's true. But it's true.
I've been there.
People start avoiding you.
Yeah. Hey, no, you're right, though. I laugh at the same story. I laugh at it, too, because it's the same feeling, right? It's like, golly, it's kind of awkward. But it's the truth, man. She never talked to me again. And it really kind of messed me up. Because I was like, man, I need to tell somebody my story. And nobody wants to hear it. So it took some healing when I started finding out who I was in Christ. Then y'all don't ever hear about my past and my depression and my sorrow. Because I don't have to talk about it anymore because I'm free.
Yep.
But I didn't get free from telling somebody. I tried to. She didn't want to listen. I could have got damaged more. She didn't even talk to me. Get my feelings hurt, right?
Yeah.
But it was not until I realized that stuff isn't who I am, and discovering the next step. So anyway, all right. So if we want healthy relationships, if we want healthy conflict, we have to be able to take down, we have to be able to get vulnerable, take off the fig leaves. And so there's been times in my past, because I knew people saw me as a laugher, I had to sit, this is the hardest thing I ever had to do. Start the conversation out and say, hey, look, on a serious note, all kidding aside, like if that was important for me to do, all kidding aside, because I knew my tendency was to laugh, right? So I'd say all kidding aside, and then I would tell them how I felt, and it was much more meaningful, because because what I learned was, here's what I learned. I would go tell somebody, I would become short. I'd actually start to jab people. I'd jab them and then I'd giggle about it, right? I'd say, well, if everybody would just show up on time, you know what I mean? Right? It's exactly what I do, or whatever. I'd do a little jab and laugh about it, and then I realized that, and I actually did it when I was managing CC's. Actually, that's where I discovered this. At CC's Pizza, I was so awkward about conflict, I would go talk to somebody about it, and I would laugh about it. And then I realized nobody took me seriously. Because I would say something, and I would joke. And I was like, man. And so it taught me later that when I heard other people say something and laugh about it, that even though they were laughing, it was, to everyone else, it was dismissing them.
Yeah.
It was just, everyone else dismissed it because he laughed. Right? But because of my past, and because I knew that I'd done the very same thing, when someone would say something and jab and laugh, I would wait till everyone was gone, and then I'd go back to that guy and say, hey, look, I know that there's always a little bit of truth in joking. And I know that you said what you said, and I know you laughed about it. But on a serious note, does that really bother you? And they'll still giggle a little bit. Well, yeah, it does bother me. Because they're even more awkward now because I brought it to them, right? But I'm like, no, seriously, tell me, does this bother you? Well, yeah, it does bother me. I said, okay, well, in the future, just come talk to me. So the same thing with bullies. They come in there and they just yell at you. Blah, blah, blah. They just get all over you. And I remember someone doing that to me one time, and I just had to go up to him and say, hey, look, I'm just going to let you know I don't really respond very well to that type of behavior. So if you want me to respond better, just tell me. You don't have to be a jerk about it. And then you know what I mean?
Yeah, just communicate.
Because what we realize is when people are laughing all the time, people don't take them seriously. And then they want to know, why can nobody ever takes me seriously? Nobody takes me seriously. Nobody really cares. Well, it's just because they think that you're not serious. Then the other guy, who's a jerk, what does he do? He just drives everybody away from him. And he thinks that nobody cares when the truth is...
you get through that person? Because that's what my cousin, the whole family knows it. I mean, it's bad.
You just tell them exactly what you see. You just tell them, look, I mean...
Well, if they're a jerk, like you would say, I don't care. I don't give a...
No. If you talk them privately,
Oh.
if you talk to them privately, and you say, hey, look, you know, when you talk to us, you're really kind of a jerk. Here's what I've learned. The guy who laughs, you got to laugh with him. The guy who's a jerk, you got to be a jerk to them. You know why? Because they don't hear anything any other way. If I was a jerk to Mikey, Mikey would not respond to that. You know what I mean? He would close off. But if I was laughing when I talked to the jerk, he wouldn't take me seriously. So I've learned that there's different types of people. There's the people who want, they desire to have, they don't want to make anybody mad. Then there's other people who just want people to get out of their way. See what I'm saying? And so if you're really direct with direct people, first of all, they are really, so I've had to learn to be all things to all people. And the only way you can do that is if you're really secure. You got to be secure.
So are you saying be direct with direct people?
Be direct with direct people. This is the best way to help them. They will never hear it any other way, and they won't get offended at you either.
Yeah.
See, even though you don't laugh as much as Mikey do, you and him are a lot alike. Okay? You want things to be happy, and you don't want that deep conflict. The other people who are just jerks, they're just, really, you have to be direct with them. And the reason why is because they're not, it's the only way they hear anything. It's the only way they communicate. It's their language, you might say.
Yeah.
Okay? So you might be afraid that you're going to hurt their feelings, but you're not. They've already singed their feelings. Okay? That's why they stay irritable all the time. It doesn't mean that they're not going to have to deal with some uncomfortableness, right? Even talking about this, I'm sure Mikey's having to deal with uncomfortableness, right? And when you're direct with them, they may be really direct with you right back. And say, hey, do you even care about me? Do you care about this relationship? Well, yeah, I care about this relationship. If anyone's got a heart at all, they'll say, well, yeah, I care. I mean, I would just tell them, do you really want to drive everybody away in your life? I care about you enough to come confront you about this. Do you want to drive me away from your life? And just tell them that. So because you're ruining when you behave like this, you're not really accomplishing what you want. If you were, then you would stop. You would actually have no need to behave the way you're behaving. But obviously, you've never gotten what you wanted. Therefore, you continue to believe that you have to act this way to get it. No one's being honest. Okay, so we have, watch this. All right, I think God's showing me something else.
Uh-oh.
Check this out. You have laughers.
Laffy Taffy.
Laffy Taffy.
Oh, gosh. You have ramrods.
Rescuers.
Okay?
Ramrod.
Ramrods. And then you have passive people. I'm going to stay quiet so nobody has to notice me and I don't have to deal with the conflict. I'm going to stay out of sight, out of mind. Right?
Right.
All right, so we have laughers, we have ramrods, we got passive aggressive or passive. Ramrods would be more passive aggressive. But you just got to look at how people are dealing with the conflict. You know what I mean? If they just completely pull away. You know what I mean? But I've noticed this. You know, there's a lot of times people think, for instance, introverts is a bad thing. Well, they also don't realize that being an extrovert can be a bad thing too.
Very.
Like, think about this for a minute. We become an introvert because we don't want the attention, because we don't want negative attention. Well, extroverts oftentimes become extroverts because they want attention and they want positive attention. You know what I'm saying? And they'll take any kind of attention. So it's no matter what, it's fear of men. No matter what, it boils down to fear of men. Someone wants the limelight because they want people to praise them. Somebody wants to not be noticed by anybody because they don't want to get any criticism from anybody. Does that make sense? It's both evil. The key is to be kind of both. Be willing to be bold when you have to be. But what's boldness for? Boldness requires courage. Courage means you're going to do something right even if it hurts you. That's not extrovertism. That's boldness. That's courage. You don't have to be an extrovert to be bold and have courage. Make sense? Sometimes we got to learn to be quiet and let other people talk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Share it. Empower others. That's the danger of being an extrovert. Is extroverts have trouble sometimes empowering others and letting other people get the limelight. Only insecure people wouldn't want to share that. Only insecure people wouldn't want to confront. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So an introvert is insecure sometimes. I'm not saying, oh, look, we all bend towards one of these, right? Sometimes we're more extroverted, sometimes we're more introverted. But it can both be, a ditch on both sides. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I want all the limelight, I'm not willing to share it with somebody else. I don't want somebody else to get any credit. That can be a very controlling person. And then you have somebody who's introverted so much that they don't want to have conflict. Make sense? So we hide behind these things. All right? Make sense?
Yes.
So we want to have healthy conflict. And the key is to healthy conflict is to believe in the best in others. Another way of saying that is to give people the benefit of the doubt. 1 Corinthians says, love always trusts. Another class I took one time called it filling the gap with trust. When you have questions, but you choose to trust them anyway. You know what trusting means? Trusting means you make yourself weak in some way. In other words, if they wanted to, they could take advantage of you. I give my money to the bank. I'm giving them trust. They could all steal my money and never give it back. You see what I'm saying? I put myself in a compromised position where someone could take advantage of me. Take advantage of my goodness. Take advantage of my kindness. Okay? So love always trusts. If I'm going to have conflict with somebody, the first step to that conflict is becoming vulnerable with them. Admitting my own faults. When I admit my own faults, I give them something to trust with. I'm entrusting with them my weakness. This is where I failed. Let me reveal to you where I failed, so if you wanted to, you could use it as ammo against me, but don't, because if you do, it'll ruin our relationship. But I'm going to give you that trust anyway. I'm going to take that risk. Now you have something against me that you could use against me. But chances are, if I'm vulnerable, think about this. Everybody's scared to death of being vulnerable. But how many people have you heard that when they actually were vulnerable and talked about their weakness, did you respect them more? Right? Well, I messed up on this. So why do we respect them more? Because it took courage to do it. And honestly, it's difficult for me to do that. So when I see that guy do it, it gives me the courage to do it too. If you want someone else to be vulnerable with you, the quickest way to earn their trust is to give them trust by confessing your own faults. Powerful stuff. If you want them to be humble, then you must be humble. If you want You reap what you sow. If you sow humility, you also get from them humility most of the time. Not every time. Sometimes somebody is just so hurt and so insecure, you give them something, they take advantage of you. Now, what are you going to do? How are you able to give it to them in the first place? You better be secure in who you are. Because if you're not secure in who you are and you give them some trust and they take advantage of you, you'll never do it again. But if you're secure and you know who you are in Christ, you'll give it again and again and again and again. How many times has somebody come to this program, poured my heart and soul into them, and they still left anyway? Why do I keep doing it? Because I don't get my security from them. I don't get my success rate from how many people graduate this program. I know that when I die one day, I'm going to stand before God on Judgment Day, and He's going to tell me, well done, good and faithful servant, regardless of how people respond to my message. So my security came from God, so I'm willing to give to others, even when they take advantage of me. Powerful. This will change your life. This will change the way all your relationships pan out. Yes, when you love someone, some people are going to tread on that kindness. If you're secure in who you are, it won't matter. Because love never fails. It didn't expect anything in return in the first place. I gave it willingly and freely, no matter how you respond. If I'm secure in who I am, then you can tread on it, it won't matter. But I will tell you this, because of that sacrifice, there are relationships that have been established that are deeper than any other relationship I've ever had. High risk, people. High risk investments. The higher the risk, the better the return. The higher the risk, the better the return. When we believe in others. When we believe people will change, when we believe people will care, when we believe in the best in others, we can give them trust. We can have conflict with them. Once you have conflict with them, then your relationship is now actually more solidified. Every person that I've ever gone deep in a relationship with, we've had a conflict. And at that moment, we're at a crossroad. We're at a fork in the road. Will we continue together? Or will we part ways? And when we choose to stay together, then we're stronger than we ever were before. Powerful stuff. Got to be willing to forgive. Move on. Well, this probably concludes part 5 of our teaching Crybabies. Part 5, conflict, dealing with conflict. So, I hope that helped. All right, praise the Lord. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this teaching blessed you and inspired you and helped you out a little bit. Man, if it was a blessing for you, please share the video, like it, leave a comment if you have questions. I'll try to answer these questions and whatnot. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Go to our Facebook page and make sure you've already liked the page. Hover your mouse over following and make sure See First is checked. If there's a check mark there, then you know that you'll be seeing our videos in your newsfeed. Also, if you're wanting to support our ministry and help fund missions work and help support drug and alcohol recovery, please go to our website, boldastlionministries.com or www.balmzs.com, and you'll see here there's a donate button. You just hit this donate button right there. It'll give you an opportunity to sow into the ministry. Right there, you can see Bold as a Lion Ministries. You can give $30 a month, $50 a month, or $100 a month, or just a one-time gift if you want. Also, you can go to our website, 3rcandles.com. Remember, all the candles are handmade by our students in recovery, and so you can select from our wide range of products. I mean, we just have tons of candles you can see right there. And also, be sure to sign up for the VIP offers. We can get 25% off your next purchase. You'll be able to receive offers we have. We're also going to be doing some free test strips for fragrances as well. So make sure that you sign up right here and all that good stuff. So have a good day.